The US conducted highly effective airstrikes in Iran's nuclear sites. Or did they? Canada has pledged a radical increase in their defense spending. Indonesia has been inducted into BRICS, and Iran wants to leverage BRICS to de-dollarize the world. I made up a word for this video, so tell me you're proud of me. I am Mandatory Fun Day. This is Worldwide Wednesday. Here's everything you need to know in a couple minutes. Stick around until the end because I'm going to break down Brazil's new government regulations on big tech. This is something that would be painted as a direct attack on the First Amendment, free speech in the United States. On June 22nd of 2025, U.S. Air Force B-2 stealth bombers and Navy submarines launched strikes at 3 Iranian nuclear facilities, Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan. The operation, codenamed Midnight Hammer, used 14 GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrator bunker busters dropped from the Northrop Grumman's B-2s and Tomahawk cruise missiles as backup, straight from the United States Navy's underwater secret boys. It was the U.S.'s first direct military blow in recent history. The Trump administration has hailed the strikes as highly effective. Meanwhile, U.S. intelligence reports, later leaked and reported by Reuters and the Washington Post, tempered the claims. Intercepted Iranian communications suggested that damage might be limited or deliberately downplayed. The UN Security Council convened immediately. Russia, China, and Pakistan proposed a ceasefire resolution. These strikes represent a major turning point. The US, under Trump, has signaled a willingness to act alone and to escalate publicly. This isn't covert sabotage, it's open military intervention. Strategically, the goal was to degrade Iran's new weapons-grade uranium stockpiles and underground facilities, delaying their program by months or even years. But there's risk. Iran could retaliate, closing the Strait of Hormuz, targeting U.S. bases in the Gulf, launching missile volleys over Israel, or unleashing proxy forces across the region. Cyber attacks were expected, but so far Iran's capabilities have remained relatively muted. Ultimately, this may only be the start, not the grand finale. Iran did retaliate somewhat. However, it appears, based on reporting, that the retaliation was relatively ineffective. How effective do you think these strikes were in achieving their intended goal? I would like to know in the comments, because I love you. At a recent NATO summit, Canada's Prime Minister made history. Canada will increase its defense spending to 5% of GDP by 2035, aligning with NATO's newly ratified tiers, 3.5% core defense, 1.5% for infrastructure. Currently at around 2%, matching NATO's minimum, Canada's pledge requires a doubling of military investment. Analysts warn this will force trade-offs. Education, healthcare, or social services would need budget cuts or revenue hikes. This is a quantum leap for Canada. Historically, Canada relied on diplomacy and its partnership with Washington and London. This pledge marks a shift. Ottawa plans to build credible hard power, more troops, ships, planes, cyber capabilities. But the political challenge looms large. Canadians are generous on social spending, but will they embrace a military-first budget? Canada's Prime Minister may have already tied his legacy to this. The next election cycle will test Canada's appetite for this transformation. Citizens of Canada, or anyone watching, should the country go full defense or balanced social programs? Sound off below. Also, please keep it respectful. Our NATO alliances are incredibly important. We don't need to needlessly insult each other, but some healthy discourse and dialogue is always appreciated. The video's not over yet, but I'm going to tell you about my website now. TheMandatoryFunday.com is where you can get any of my merch if you would like to support me further. The members of my website get a 20% discount on merchandise, and they get access to exclusive content. In addition, we've got a link on the website for regulation-compliant shirts. But let's get back to the video now. Earlier this year, Indonesia officially became a full member of BRICS, the first Southeast Asian nation admitted. The president hailed it as a move toward economic sovereignty, part of a strategy to balance relations with both the global West and global South. With somewhere between 270 and 290 million people, a G20 economy, and crucial maritime choke points, Indonesia brings strategic heft. They've got some strategic girth, if you will. BRICS membership expands the bloc's influence deep into Asia, complementing its Eurasian and African presence. This is a profound pivot, Indonesia aligning itself with multipolarity. Not a pivot to China, but inclusion among equals. With the inclusion of Indonesia into BRICS, BRICS will gain access to the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, their networks, trade flows, and maritime routes. Jakarta gains diplomatic leverage, economic and political autonomy beyond traditional Western rulers. But balancing is delicate. Military and U.S. ties remain crucial. Beijing, New Delhi, Canberra, all will be watching. Indonesia must juggle partners and politics to avoid alienating any. President Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin met in Moscow to reinforce their no-limits strategic partnership. They agreed to deep integration on multiple fronts. Belt and Road plus Eurasian Economic Union, energy co-projects, high-tech data sharing, joint military training, and digital infrastructure sync-ups. Both skipped the upcoming Rio BRICS summit. Representatives will stand in, signaling confidence in their system-level alignment. This alliance goes beyond anti-West rhetoric. It's manufacturing alternatives, rail, pipelines, satellites, cyber security corridors, and digital clearinghouses outside Western norms. The synergy is tactical and ideological, multipolarity as doctrine. China brings finance and infrastructure, Russia brings energy and military heft. Put them together and it's an alternative international system. But the real test will be how well it handles internal strains, AI, politics, or conflicts with India or Europe. Oh, and there's also the fact that Russia and China aren't always known to play nice with anyone, to include their own allies. Do you think this Sino-Russian bloc can challenge Western-led global systems? Let's get the debate going in the comments. Don't turn it into a dumpster fire, please. Following the June 22nd strikes, BRICS members, led by Brazil's rotating presidency, issued a statement condemning any unilateral use of force and demanded a diplomatic approach. Iran has since ratcheted up de-dollarization efforts, launching oil for yuan rupee agreements. This occurred with China and India within BRICS trades. Tehran used the platform to highlight its narrative, first world hegemony versus multipolar legitimacy. Iran is weaponizing its BRICS membership. In BRICS halls, it gets economic, strategic, and media legitimacy, not sanctions or isolation. The oil settlement systems outside US banking, plus digital and diplomatic echoes, offer Tehran insulation. But not all BRICS are equal. South Africa, India, and others may balk at overt defense of Iran's conduct. The bloc is fragile if its unity is tested by backing a country actively at war. Does BRICS protecting Iran strengthen or fracture its global credibility? Let me know what you think in the comments. June of 2025, Brazil's Supreme Federal Court ruled 8-3 that digital platforms, including all of them, I don't want to get nerfed, all right, if I start naming them, are legally responsible for user-posted content. They must proactively monitor and remove hate speech, disinformation, or threats without relying on takedown notices. The trick here is who gets to determine what hate speech, disinformation, or threats are. Who watches the Watchmen? The platforms will face fines, litigation, and even temporary blocking if they fail to comply. Lula's government praised the ruling, citing democratic protection and alignment with BRICS digital autonomy efforts. Brazil just rewrote the rules of the digital public square in the global south. By forcing corporate accountability, Brazil signals sovereignty over information flows, part of broader BRICS disclosure on digital independence. It aligns with EU protections but exceeds them, placing non-Western tech giants under similar or stricter regimes. But this also risks censorship. Platforms may over-remove to avoid penalties. Still, countries like India and South Africa are watching. This could set a precedent in regulating digital life at scale. And that's it. That's a wrap of our 8 seismic developments. NATO nations arming up and global South powers realigning. What binds them? A shift from post-Cold War complacency to proactive posture. This era of multipolar tension demands attention, and your voice matters. Which of these 8 stories do you think will change our world most dramatically? Let me know in the comments. Thank you guys for watching, as always, and I will see you next time.